Non-governmental organizations, international and local observers of the 2023 general elections have expressed huge disappointment in the process that birthed new leaders to drive the country for the next 4 years. And of particular mention, the last gubernatorial elections in several states was actually trailed by a lot of ethnic and religious bigotry that has defined the elections in the country. And this calls for a call for concern because it looks like we have a much more divided nation. What are we going to do about it? These are the conversations we want to have today. We want to review the entire elections. And joining me from Abuja, I have God Bless Otubore, who is a lecturer at University of Ibadan. He's also the global lead, Ready to Lead Africa. Hello, God Bless. Welcome to the show. Okay. While we're waiting for God Bless, many Nigerians, like I said earlier, have defended against ethnic and religious bigotry that has defined this election. And of course, God Bless, are you ready for us now? Welcome to the show. So, quick one. How would you assess...
Yes, I am ready. I've been here. I heard you at first.
Okay.
Can you see me?
Yes, of course. Clear, crystal clear. So how would you assess the last elections?
Well, I mean, it's the last election was a mix of a lot of realities, which wherever you sit, whatever the divide you are, there is one overarching position that everybody will take, and which is that it did not meet the yearnings and expectations of Nigerians at different levels. Of course, the most controversial was the presidential election, where INEC failed to upload polling unit results in real time. So that clearly was one of the biggest failures of the 25th February election that eventually ended up declaring the APC candidate as the president-elect. Of course, you see, right at the collation center in Abuja, there was quite a lot of opposition to that particular, declaration. So generally, then you have that whole issue of voter disenfranchisement in certain areas and polling not opening right on time in many states, especially in the South and in the Southeast, which were, all part of, the opposition's claim. It is just a way to take away their votes. Then again, when you move on to the March 18th election, which is the most, I think also has its own controversy. Now you have the beavers working and results are uploaded. IREV worked, but then you don't find a lot of guidelines that are not followed. And then, of course, the bigotry, the religious bigotry that characterized the campaigns in certain states, the wanton killing of Nigerians just because of election, and the fact that we saw governors who were acting as though they were kings across the country. Just made it look so unbelievable that, having worked on this process for the last 3 years or more, it wasn't the best result that a lot of us expected. But hey, like we said at the end of it all, while I was still on the verdict with Mark Baird, Chamberlain, and Nelta, I said to Nigerians that democracy is not a 100-meter dash. It is not a marathon. It is a way of life. It is an intergenerational struggle for the way we want to be led. And because it is dependent on the actions of man and the following of guidelines and laid rules by seemingly educated people, it never finishes. So that is actually the only way that I believe we can find some level of inspiration to continue to do the work we're doing and continue to believe, in the process.
All right, God bless. We're going to go deeper into that conversation, but right now I want to connect with Mutiyat Oladejo. Mutiyat is actually the lecturer at the University of Ibadan. Welcome to the show. So, Real quick, let's dive into it. We've seen what's happening. Of particular mention, let's talk about the elections at Adamawa State. Nigerians had a lot of hope. Some Nigerians, because of course not all Nigerians, some Nigerians had a lot of hope that, yes, we're going to have our first elected governor in the person of Banini, Aishatu Ahmed. What would you say your view is on the Adamawa State election?
Thank you. Actually, we had high hopes that she was going to win the election until the following morning when we realized that it has become inconclusive. But notwithstanding, as a woman advocate who advocates for women's participation in politics, I still believe that it's a good attempt because given the fact that we are in Nigeria where the society is extremely patriarchal, it's been difficult for women to achieve certain positions generally in the Nigerian public space. And so for me, I see emergence and how far she has gone to achieve that as a kind of encouragement for women to actually push further and pursue whatever their aspirations and ambitions are. However, at the end of the day, we still depend on what comes out from INEC's decision based on the decision of the voters anyway, because it is the voters that will determine what will happen at the end of the day. And I can't really say what the problem is exactly. I'm not going to say probably there is something shady happening anywhere. But then the fact that she went that far is a plus for women to celebrate. And it's something for us to use as an opportunity to push for that into the future.
All right. Now, how would you personally rate the elections generally? Presidential, gubernatorial, how would you rate the performance of the INEC? Did they perform well?
Yes, well, I was also a kind of collating officer, so I could say that when it comes to the processes went well, no doubt. But then, you know, it's a process, and the process will always have its fault lines. And so, and in every organization, once there is there will always be a kind of feedback, evaluation. So I believe INEC will have a kind of feedback and evaluation of its process and see how they can improve on it, because it's a process. And once you call something a process, there will always be fault. And it's the fault that will go back into making decisions as to improve further into the future. And of course, let me say here that we are in Nigeria and we are Nigerians. Nigeria is a country that is trying to develop, that is trying to improve on what it has in the past. So I will say that this election is not different from the elections we've had in the past, so to speak, in terms of how it went well. And relatively, I may be wrong, but I could say that the election was actually crisis-free. Unlike the election we had in 2019, where there are a lot of assaults and, I mean, here and there, violence. But this one,
but there was
relatively
violence. There was violence in this election. There were, in fact, ballot boxes were also snatched. In fact, we've seen a lot of violence.
Anyway, and that's why I said, apart from snatching of ballot boxes, there are some issues that come up with elections that I believe we had bad experiences in 2015 and 2019. But I don't think this time we've had such bad experiences. Because now, I will say on the part of the politicians, I think they are beginning to stop seeing elections as a do or die affair. And they, relatively this time, a number of politicians chose the path of accepting the fact that they have been defeated and they move on. So I would say that relatively, since politicians are beginning to have that mindset, the rate of violence that comes with election has reduced relatively.
Oh, okay. I don't want it to look like I'm pressing you too much, but you did say that a lot of politicians have decided to move on with their loss. But I think we have more cases, more election petitions this year as opposed to the last elections that we had in Nigeria. We have more people going to courts, more people claiming that they've been disenfranchised, and more people claiming that they want to take back their mandate. In fact, let's even forget about all the other election petitions, presidential, both Alhaji Atiku Abubakar of the PDP is in court, as well as Peter Obi of Labour Party is also in court. And for the very first time, a president was elected with less than 50% of the total votes. And that sort of shows extreme division. So how do you think we can move forward with this situation? Because we need one nation to actually move forward.
Yeah, the pattern is clear enough, because if you have if you understand how games are played anyway, you will see that Labour Party has 6 million plus votes, PDP has 6 million plus votes, and APC has 6 million plus votes. That shows that it is quite competitive. And that is what comes with elections. That's what comes with democracy. And it also even shows a pattern that our democracy in Nigeria is improving. Because if we had a situation where a party dominates, we would say that there is a kind of oppression. We would say there are things that affect voters from participating in elections. But then you have a situation where a party has 8 million, 6 million, 6 million. Then you will see that the pattern is clear enough for us to say that we still had a free and fair election where voters had the opportunity to make their choices. Okay. Because it also depends on the voters. Voters have decided to make their choices. Now, if we are to go by the fact that the issues we have as Nigerians in terms of ethnicity and religion, we could begin to adduce various reasons why one has 8 million, the other has 6 million, the other has 6 million. Yes. Right. As Nigerians, we can actually say these are the reasons why this voting pattern went this way. But the fact that the presidential candidates that lose in the election went to court, they also have the right to go to court anyway. But I think I heard one of the candidates saying the reason why he went to court is not even to challenge the result of the election, but to challenge the process. I'm also learning. I want to see what we are going to, how the process is going to be challenged. Because like I said earlier on, it is very obvious from the voting pattern that people made their decisions and made their choices, and it's reflect. And that's why one of the candidates said he's not contesting the result of the election, but he's contesting the process.
Thank you, Matthias.
And they have the right to go to court, and so we are all Nigerian citizens. It is stated in the Constitution.
100%, they do have the right to go to court. Quickly, God bless. What would you say about this third force phenomenon? Because this is the very first time we're experiencing this huge amount of support for a third force. Beyond the individual and the party involved, what does this mean moving forward in our national democracy?
Quite a lot of statements that the guest, the lecturer, has said on this show that I'm finding it difficult to just understand. But I think I'll just okay. So I don't think we should let it just slide. So this was a very violent election, for whatever way. Look, in Akwa Ibom alone, our observers that were deployed on the field, because we deployed across the 774 local governments in the country, and violence was reported almost everywhere. People died in Akwa Ibom. People died in Lagos. People died in Port Harcourt. People died in Rivers. People died in communities. People were disenfranchised. Ballot boxes were snatched and broken. We saw them in real time. They were not reported. They were not just reported. We have evidence. So to say the election was not violent, I don't think that's great. And then to also now say that the process went well, and then just no. Clearly no. So on the 25th, we had huge logistical challenges. You can't have the polls opening at 8:30, and by 2, people haven't voted. You can't have that. Election, there was nowhere in the Electoral Act where we said voting should go on till the night. So those things happen. And we understand, and we've spoken to INEC about it, and our responsibility to INEC is one of accountability and partnership, and that's what we've done. That's what we've continued to do. So I would like for us to really, if we don't say where we have gone wrong, we cannot make progress. So we cannot say, oh, we're developing democracy and then we can cherry pick what we want to say. How we move forward in terms of our democracy and the whole issue of third force, I'm not a thinker in whether you have first force or second force or third force. If I had my way, and if I was going to advise, I would switch to the two-party system, just the way you have it in the United States. Democrats, Republicans. If you're in power, we know you're in power. If you're not in power, you know you're playing opposition. Because the only reason why you have very weak opposition in multi-party democracies is because what you then have is fragmented opposition that is incapable of matching the might of the power of the party in office. And that literally affects the capacity of the opposition to hold the party in office accountable. And that is actually a big issue. That is why, when you look at the American system and you see power move from both the Democrats to Republicans, you see Republicans probably hold the House now. Democrats have the Senate, then you have Democrats in the White House. The possibility of having maybe the Republicans in the White House and then maybe Democrats hold the Senate. That is how power play works. Fragmented oppositions with their small enclaves cannot work and hold the party in power in a presidential system very accountable very well. It only works when you have a parliamentary system where smaller parties then begin to form coalitions to be able to create a government. But in the presidential system, where you have multi-party democracy and then you have all these smaller parties, right now we have 18 political parties, right? So.
Right.
For me, I'll just say the whole third force conversation, I would want the third force conversation. It's great for representation, but hey, if I have my way, I just said my solution. But let's continue to move ahead. Let's continue to respect the guidelines. Let's continue to play by the rules of democracy so that people don't get disillusioned about the process. Go ahead. It seems like you want to say something.
Okay, God bless. Whatever side of the divide anybody belongs to, whether you supported the APC, the PDP, or the Labour Party, one thing is common. A lot of people need to heal after these elections. Like I said earlier on in my opening speech, the gubernatorial elections, we saw that it was really amongst ethnic lines, especially with cases that came up in Lagos. But one thing is for sure, we are all Nigerians, and a lot of people are having post-election traumatic disorder, if that's a thing, right? We're now seeing that the elections are over, but the day-to-day interaction between one particular tribe and another particular tribe has been, sort of mad. So real quickly, we're out of time. How do you think that everybody can come together and heal, and how can we preach the message of one Nigeria? God bless.
That's a fantastic question, and I think we all should be responding to it with the best intention and grace possible. The best way to heal, which is what the governor of Lagos State did, is to say, look, elections have come and gone. Let us continue to work together. Let's build coalition. Let's reach out. And I remember I was saying on this same channel and other media houses that have invited me, I said, look, this is the time for us to do both the real work and the optical work. The optical work is that we must be seen as reaching out, whether cosmetic or just for the optics. It's necessary right now. We need to see Sanwo-Olu and Indigbo together. We need to see the Yoruba kings and the Ezes together. We need to see the Femis and the Chukudis having a drink. We need to see the Omoniles. We need to see the guys under the bridge with Igbo brothers and sisters coming together, right? These are optical things. These are things we can do for optics that can have very, very, impactful resonance at the, at the lower base.
All right.
The next thing we must now do is that we must now call those who speak for candidates, those who speak for leaders. They must stop what they are currently doing. And I said that in our press conference. I named names. I called them out. People like former aviation minister, Femi Fani-Kayode. They have to understand that they are leaders and we look up to them. People like Bayo Nanuga. They have to understand that we're young people and we look up to them. I have no side in this battle. I am on the Nigerian side. I mean, if you see the news, The news is that the guy who played the hero, that the guy who is regarded as the hero from the from Hotel Rwanda, you know, that was depicted in the movie Hotel Rwanda because of the genocide, has just been freed after being convicted for 25 years, 2 years ago. Why was he convicted? Because they went back to check a lot of things and what have you. But let's go back to even what the conversation is the Rwanda genocide happened because of things like this. So at the end of the day, the people who are representing governors and people who are speaking for political party leaders, those the Bayonanda guy who is speaking for the president-elect right now, cannot be seen as the one who is pushing these narratives on Twitter and on social media. Sir, I am begging you. I don't know what your thinking is. I understand that emotions are high. But the elections have been concluded for now.
We're out of time.
People have gone to court.
Your point is...
this whole tribal profiling and people and calling out...
I understand that you're very emotional about this.
I'm begging you, please.
I understand that you're very emotional about this. God bless. Thank you very much. I understand you're very emotional about this, but I believe that you have delivered your message. And thank you very much for coming on the program. Mutiat, thank you so very much for coming.